Well, welcome to Business Talk on Business Tech, and time to take to the skies. Now, starting an airline certainly isn't an easy task. Most airline startups are 2, 3, maybe 4 years in the making before they take the inaugural flight. Well, for Lyft, a startup airline in South Africa, waiting certainly wasn't an option. And from the moment the founders met and discussed starting the airline to the takeoff of the first flight, I think just 3 months, 90 days elapsed. Well, since then, we've seen Lyft soaring as the airline industry has made a really good recovery from COVID. And as a frequent flyer, I can safely say that demand seems to be exceeding supply, judging by ticket prices and volumes at the moment. Well, I'm joined now by Jonathan Ayache, Chief Executive Officer at Lyft. Jonathan, welcome. What's your view on the current airline industry in South Africa?
Michael, thanks for having me. It's been a challenging 24 months. I mean, the truth is, we only probably saw the end of the impacts of COVID for us in the domestic market in around June last year. And we've been on a growth path since then, really implementing the plan that we'd had at the start of COVID, which was a little bit delayed. I understand from a passenger point of view why you would say demand has recovered, but I can tell you now it hasn't. I mean, when you look at AXA passenger statistics, we're only at about 80% of where we were from a passenger volume point of view pre-COVID. And for context, that number was roughly the same in April last year. So over the last 12 months, things have been pretty flat. Whereas in the rest of the world, US, Europe, you see a recovery to beyond the numbers that they were at pre-COVID. So obviously the economic situation in South Africa is impacting us, and that's reducing the number of people flying in South Africa.
That is very interesting. If you look at it from a behavioral perspective, is it also the fact that, we've seen, thanks to Zoom, maybe we don't have to make all of those trips, Joburg to Cape Town? I know one of the busiest commercial trips. How has flyer behavior been impacted by the pandemic? And are we doing things differently now?
I'm sure it has. There has been a change. The question, I suppose, is do we think there's been a change in South Africa more so than anywhere else in the world? And my hypothesis is that, yes, there's probably been a change, but if we're seeing a recovery in the rest of the world, it's probably not, what's happening in South Africa is probably not behavioral. It's difficult to say exactly because people don't always say whether their trip is business or leisure, and sometimes it's a bit of both. But if we look at the distribution channels, I would say it's seasonal, but around half of our business is business travelers, and the other half is leisure. So we've got a really good mix. We've got a business class offering, one of the few airlines in South Africa to still offer that, and so we've got that good mix that is helping offset some of the reduced demand in this quieter period.
What is your outlook, given that, for the industry over the next few years then? Do you think South Africa, as the economy starts recovering, as we start getting on top of things like load shedding and confidence improves, that we'll follow that trend that we've seen elsewhere in the world?
I definitely think we're on an upward trajectory. We're a bit slower to get there, I think, again, because of some of the macroeconomic factors that we were dealing with in the country, load shedding, higher interest rates. People just don't have the disposable income to travel at the moment, but that will change. And what COVID, I think, showed all of us was, yes, Zoom works. We're having this conversation on Zoom, but it is absolutely no replacement for that in-person interaction. It will supplement it, but it cannot replace it. So I think that, and you see the same thing in the work from home space. 2 years ago, everyone was saying no one will ever be going back to the office. Today, everyone's being called back to the office. So I think we will see a recovery. It's taking a bit longer, and there's quite a lot of seasonality in the domestic market in South Africa. January, February, March are busier. May, June, July are quieter. And so we feel those swings. the most important thing, I think, for the domestic market is responsibility from airlines. The issue comes in when there's an imbalance in supply and demand, and you feel that on both sides. When Comair exited the market, passengers felt that swing, and prices increased in the short term. But now we're seeing the swing the other way, where there's actually an oversupply of aircraft, and it seems great for passengers right now, where you can get a return to Joburg for 1,000 rand, but it's not sustainable. And what ends up happening, if that is there for too long, is that you see what happened. Mango exited, Comair exited, and that's not good for competition. It's not good for the industry. It's not good for the people in the industry. So I think our view is we are going to grow, but we're going to do it responsibly.
Yeah, and we don't need these wild swings. We need something that is done in a far more sustainable manner. Now, Lyft has been running for a few years now. You actually joined from Uber. So I want to ask you, firstly, have you reached the goals that you set out, in those initial launch discussions with Gidon? And how do you think your lack of aviation experience has influenced your approach as CEO? Because often coming at an industry with an outsider's perspective can be a big advantage.
I think the biggest thing was, if I'd known what I knew going in, I might have been a little bit more apprehensive to take the dive. But no, we are absolutely thrilled with where we are. We've exceeded our targets, so we are operating 6 aircraft at the moment. I think we targeted to get to that probably only next year. We were very unsure about how the COVID landscape would progress, and so things are going really well. There's challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis: the rand dollar, fuel prices, but we've got a fantastic team, and we take it in our stride. And I think while it's completely different from Uber, I mean, you think it's transportation, it's got to be similar. It's absolutely completely different. But I think what is very similar, and what I've brought from my experience, was what Uber did for the taxi industry from a customer value proposition point of view, is really enhance that. And that's what our focus is at Lyft. Is we had an opportunity to enter during COVID, but the long-term strategy is to differentiate completely and bring hospitality back into aviation, put the customer back at the center, create that incredible experience when you're traveling or when you need our help. And that's what we differentiate on. We're not a low-cost carrier. We'll be in and amongst the mix, but you're going to get significantly better service at every point through the journey.
Well, I mean, you had me on the Vida coffee. I've flown a few times on Lyft, and for me as a journalist, it's an important differentiator to have good coffee on my Joburg Cape Town trips. But it's been a core to your offering, not only just differentiation, but a partnership model that you've taken with Vida, with Superbus. You recently entered into a partnership with Veldskin, a great South African brand. What makes Veldskin such a good fit for you?
You know what, at the end of the day, it's really the people. I think the ethos that we have is, especially during the last few years, which have been so challenging for South Africa, we've always had the view that we're positive about the country. That's why we started a business here. And that there's so much opportunity, and there's so many amazing people and businesses, and so many times in the news, you just see the negative side of things. And so we are actively looking to support local businesses. We're looking to build local partnerships. And there are so many of these that it's like 1 and 1 equals 3. It's an obvious one where the collaboration is just beneficial. And I think the partners that we've chosen not only add value to our customers, because that's at the end of the day what we're trying to do, but we're adding real value. I mean, the Veldskin one is a fantastic example. The shoes are really cool. They're sustainable. The materials would otherwise have been discarded. They're produced in Durban. So we're really supporting local business. So for us, it was a no-brainer. And the team from Veldskin, Nick and Ross, are amazing people. So it wasn't a hard decision at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's this great startup culture that they've got that you've engendered at Lyft. So, from the outside, it certainly looks like one of those matches made in heaven. Do you have any more such exciting plans that you can share with us regarding the future of Lyft? Or what can you reveal? Because I know whenever I ask a CEO this question, they say, well, I'm not at liberty to say anything. What can you share with us?
We've got some exciting things coming around our premium offering and the lounge space, which we'll be announcing in the coming weeks. So a big piece for us is we launched our premium offering, which is basically business class reinvented, in October 2021, and it's really taken off. Excuse the pun. People are loving it. It's we partnered with Sean Godfrey's the winner of MasterChef to come in and help us relook at our menu in premium. And so the one element to that we're working on now is on the lounge side. So that's something that's coming. I think we're going to be looking to do a little bit more on the uniform again, and trying to keep that fresh and funky. And then it's a continuous journey. You mentioned the coffee. It's a continuous journey, keeping that moving smoothly. We had this idea that we were going to have French press coffee, and theoretically it sounds very easy. But when you actually try and implement it, there's a reason not a lot of airlines do it. And so we've worked really closely with Darren and the team from Vida, and it's just one of those great collaborations. So from really small micro businesses all the way through to fairly large South African businesses, we really focused on trying to push get all of our suppliers to South Africa.
Well, I think there's a market that loves that attention to detail. And for as long as you continue to innovate in the space, I think you're going to continue to see the kind of growth that is seeing you already ahead of your targets. And let me know when you do get that French press coffee right. And I'll be trying out your premium as well. Jonathan Ayache, Chief Executive at Lyft, thanks so much for sharing a little bit more about the local airline industry and Lyft's plans for the future. Great partnership recently announced with Veldskin. Take care.
Thanks, Michael.